Mr. Speaker, my question's to the Prime Minister. Does he stand by his statement that, quote, the vast majority, end quote, of people will be better off as a result of his tax switch on 1 October 2010?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, yes, because that's what the facts clearly show. Raising GST will increase prices by a touch over 2%, but will be more than compensated for by income tax cuts, increase in benefits, working for families and superannuation. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, it's plain for everyone to see people will be better off.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker. Does he really think that the more than 400,000 Kiwis who earn $15 a week or less and who will at best get a net $5.70 a week will be better off when, in addition to GST, they're paying rents that are going up by $20 a week in Auckland, rates that are up, ACC charges that are up, for some people $20 to $25 a week in extra early childhood care? Is he really saying those people will be better off? Because they don't believe it.
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, yes, they will be better off. And, Mr. Speaker, what is so often the case is when the Leader of the Opposition comes into the House, says things that are factually incorrect. In fact, the story about rents last week is wrong.
Point of order. The Honourable Darren Hughes.
Mr. Speaker, all members of the House are honourable members who give their word as they see it being correct when they're asking questions. For Mr. Key to say that another member is being factually incorrect and imply that an honourable member is not being truthful when they're asking questions is out of order.
Order. Now, before I hear the Honourable Rodney Hyde, a point. Members may not agree with the point of order. It must still be heard in silence, and I'll rule on the matter in a moment. The Honourable Rodney Hyde speaking to the point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's certainly true that you can't question a member's integrity in this House, but what you certainly can do, Mr. Speaker, is say that the member is factually incorrect. That has to be allowed in this House.
I thank members, and order. There will be silence. The dilemma that the member asking the question faces is when one builds supposed facts into a question, and that contained a number of statements of alleged fact. Ministers are at liberty to dispute those facts, and it doesn't mean that they're impugning the integrity of the question at all. They just have a different view of the facts. And that's the danger that's why standing orders don't actually allow strictly members to load additional supposedly factual material into questions. I don't stop it because I think it would constrain question time too much. But the risk is that the minister answering the question, in this case the Right Honourable Prime Minister, may dispute the supposed facts, and that's what's happened on this occasion. I don't believe he was saying the Leader of the Opposition was misleading the House. He just was disagreeing with the supposed statement of fact. Supplementary question, is it the Honourable Leader of the Opposition?
Mr. Speaker, when he says that the vast majority are better off, doesn't he really mean that the top 10% of taxpayers who get 41% of the tax cuts will be a whole lot better off, but the bottom 20% of taxpayers who get 2% of the tax cuts are actually going to be a lot worse off?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, no. I mean what I say, which is the vast bulk of New Zealanders will be better off. I would point out that 2/3 of the entire tax cut package was applied to the lowest two rates, Mr. Speaker. But I say this to the Leader of the Opposition. If he's so convinced he's on a winner, go to the campaign in 2011 agreeing to reverse the personal tax cuts that we've introduced.
Joe, would you?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Prime Minister. Has he seen any reports of people being confused about the tax switch?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, actually I have. I've seen pamphlets from the Labour Party implying that GST is going from 0 to 15% on 1 October. Speaker, not only is this completely false and an attempt to mislead the public, but you think of all people, Phil Goff would know that GST was 12.5%. Because he put it on and raised it with no compensation.
That's right.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker. If people are going to be a whole lot better off, why are debt collection agencies like Bay Corp predicting that over the next 6 months there will be, and I quote, a massive spike in the number of people who just won't be able to pay their bills, end quote?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, because the country's coming out of a recession which was caused by 9 years of economic mismanagement by Labor.
To the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Order.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. When in the press statement as government put out today, they claimed a high level of extra income from after tax incomes, why did he neglect to say in that press statement that just under half of those tax cuts were actually introduced under Labor, and of the tax cuts, the other half that he introduced, overwhelmingly, they benefit the very rich and not the average New Zealander?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, because they formed the first tranche of National's tax cuts, and let's be honest, the only reason Labor ever had tax cuts after 9 years, because they were desperate and heading for the exit door.
Joe Goodhue.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Has he seen any reports of alternative tax switch policies?
The Right Honourable
Speaker,
Prime Minister.
yes, I have. I've seen reports of policies to take GST off fresh fruit and vegetables. Such a policy would needlessly complicate the tax system and create all sorts of perverse anomalies. New Zealanders would, Mr Speaker, rightfully wonder, for example, why GST was being taken off out-of-season asparagus and imported figs, but not for a packet of Watties frozen peas. In addition, this policy would cost somewhere near $450 million in revenue. Mr Speaker, that would be paid for by more borrowing.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, can the Prime Minister name just one other country in the world with GST at 15% or higher that doesn't exempt fresh fruit and vegetables?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I don't have that to hand, but But for once, I'll take my guidance from Michael Cullen, who once said, I'm aware of many countries that have appalling inefficient GST systems where they exempt various articles. Thank goodness we have not followed those very bad policies. But, Mr Speaker, when you're desperate, you'll do anything.
Don't worry. Joe Goodhue. I beg your pardon. Question number 2, Rahui Katani.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Attorney-General. What requirements